Hey, I'm Nick, and today I'm going to talk a bit about a jig I made for flush trimming solid edge banding on plywood. There's some, very efficient and also very expensive ways to do that out there if you're working in a production shop like a lipping planer or the Festool MFK 700. When I used to work in a production shop, we used a shaper setup to do it. Of course, there are a lot of other ways. I mean, there's ways to do it with a table saw. There are ways to do it with router tables, but a couple of reasons why I'm not doing it that way. One is I'm using very big pieces, so I'm going to be edge banding some 4x8s of plywood as well as some smaller but still 8-foot long pieces, so that not something that you can really run through a router table or a table saw easily, at least not standing up like a lot of the setups are. And I'm also not producing all the pieces at the same time, so I don't want to dedicate some of my machinery to doing flush trimming when I might make, a handful of pieces now and a handful of pieces a week from now. I just don't have the room to make all the pieces all at once. So I made this jig to kind of replicate some of the functionality of the Festool MFK 700. I don't need the laminate trimming aspects of it, the special aspects it has for the 1.5 degree trimming or the bearing to eliminate the burning on the edge banding. I don't have that. I'm just doing solid edge banding, so I wanted to make something for myself using some tools that I already had. So so far it's working pretty well, so you can take a look at it and see if it's something you might find useful. Okay, so right now I got 2 pieces of pre-finished plywood that I put solid edge banding on. You can see here, so it's cherry edge banding. I already did a test run to clean it up using the little jig I made, and works pretty darn well. I have it set so that there is just a very, very, very slight lip. I mean, maybe a couple thousandths, which I can take down with a cabinet scraper or sand it down or whatever I need to do. So the jig itself, homemade, first generation, haven't refined it, is basically 2 pieces of Lexan. One the trim router is mounted to, and I use the base of the trim router as a template to drill the holes for that. And then there's a second 1/4-inch piece of Lexan that creates the sort of shelf that the jig rides on so that you can trim the edge banding but not run into the plywood. And I did do a 1/8-inch roundover on all the edges of that so that I don't scratch anything as I'm running this down to pre-finished plywood. And then, I just honestly used a couple of scrap pieces to hold it all together. Just a piece of plywood, a little handle. And I bought so this is, you could use a lot of different bits, but this is a Bosch 8521 8MC, which I got off of Amazon. And it is a rabbiting bit, but it's an up shear. So I don't know how well you can see that, but it's an up shear rabbiting bit, and that makes a big difference because it's gonna produce a nice clean cut. So a lot of different bits would work in this, but this is one I got, and basically it just rides on the piece of Lexan, and then you got an air gap there, and then as it runs into the edge banding, it trims it off pretty neatly, and then you have a bearing that it rides on the face of the edge banding to keep it sort of registered. So really, honestly, pretty simple and kind of stolen from another tool, but like all good ideas, it was probably someone else's first, and we'll give it a little shot here. Yep, as you can see, got a nice result. There is just a little bit of a lip there, which I intended because I don't want to scratch the pre-finish or burn through the veneer on some of the other pieces. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with it. I did clean off most of the glue before, and I let the glue dry fully before I did this, so that I wouldn't have to worry about it gumming up the bit. But yeah, it works pretty well, and I'm happy with the result. This way I can take the tool to the work and not the work to the tool, which I kind of need given the size of the pieces that I'm working with. Okay, well, after using the jig for a while, one of the things I realized is that, and this was not a surprise to me, is that I got better results when I was climb cutting rather than the traditional using the router against the rotation of the bit. The reason for this is that climb cutting tends not to splinter out. When the bit is rotating, clockwise, it's wanting to pull the material and splinter it. And when it's climb cutting, it's forcing the material against itself on the leading edge. So climb cutting can be dangerous, especially if you're taking off a lot of material. In this case, taking off very little material. I found it to work very well. I didn't have any issues, and it got a much better result. But of course, be careful. And if you don't have experience or you're not comfortable doing it, then don't do it. And exercise due caution. But I hope that somebody finds this video helpful. I hope that somebody can look at what I did and come up with a better idea, improve upon it. Send it back to me or post your own video. It's just a quick thing that I put together to try to replicate some of the utility that I would have gotten spending a lot more money on a different piece of equipment. So thanks a lot.